Hey everybody, I just wanted to alert you that there are some sound issues in this video, primarily in the first 2 minutes, and then it tapers off for the most part. I don't know what it is, and interestingly enough, it started happening again when I began connecting with my divine team toward the end of, or toward the middle or so of this video. So I don't know if it's the higher energies that was messing up my audio or not. I have no clue what it is, but I just wanted to alert you to that. If you can bear with it past, right at the 2 minute mark, it tapers off for the most part. Anyway, enjoy the video.
Welcome back, Awakened Souls. This is the second video that I'm recording on today. And this is from a viewer that says, and I'll read her question here and then I'll ask you as I go along, I'll address aspects of what she was sharing. Predominantly what she wanted was some feedback on how to navigate the experience of being in a relationship with someone. And I don't know what kind of relationship. I don't know if it's a sibling relationship, a mother, parenting relationship, a lover relationship. I don't know what kind of relationship this is about, but I'll read the question and then I'll address that aspect of it. Okay. So she shared, I'm in a place where I know that and I'm going through her entire comment because there's a few things that I want to address here too. I'm in a place where I know that I'm the creator of my life events, and I believe and have experienced that my imagination is what shapes the events and the experiences I encounter. That's a huge step, okay? When you are in that awareness, that's a huge step. Although sometimes I can figure out how exactly I manifested it into my reality, sometimes I forget. Oh no, she was saying, although sometimes I cannot figure out how I manifested it into my reality. What I wanted to say about that is I don't try to figure out how I manifested shit. If crap happened, I'm not looking for how I manifested that. I'm already aware that in some way, shape, or form, my energy lined up with that and it manifested in my experience. So for me, what I say to my clients, what I say to others is I would rather spend my time exploring how I can create whatever is next rather than going backwards into what is over, right? It's already done, and trying to figure out how the mess manifested, I would rather, for me, my time is better spent, my imagination is better spent, my energy and frequency is better spent exploring what I want to create in my experience next, okay? So she shares, sometimes I forget who I really am and I struggle with negative emotions and worrying. We all forget who we really are. Whether we struggle with negative emotions or worrying or not, something comes up and we forget. I don't care how awakened you are. I don't care what enlightened master you're watching, what guru and satsangs you're sitting in. Everybody that's telling you or sharing with you how to live in this awakened state has their moments, unless they're sitting on a mountain somewhere with no other human beings around them. Maybe you can sustain that for, indefinitely. But our souls came here to explore this human experience. And so human experience arises, human emotions arises, outside of, frustrations arises, so, and the full array of human experiences and emotions are there for us to explore. It's what we incarnated here to do, is to explore the human experience. So all of us have moments of forgetting at one moment or another. For those of us who are predominantly tuned in to the fact that we are eternal beings, those moments become laughable and they become very brief. Because we bounce back into the knowing of who we truly are very quickly, but we still have them, we may experience them in a different way, but we still have them. Thanks to your videos and your perspective, I've gotten better. I'm training myself to watch my thoughts, and sometimes it's hard. I wanted to comment on that. If you are becoming the observer of your thoughts and it feels like effort, go do something else. Because when you're observing your thoughts, it's kind of like watching TV. If you're watching, I don't have a TV, but but I do watch Gaia.com and on my iPad or whatever. But if you are watching an interview, or you're watching me right now, does that feel like effort? No. You're just watching. You're just observing. When you're truly in observer mode, it does not feel like effort. But if you're trying to do something, then it feels like effort. But if you're just back here watching your life play out, even when the worrisome thoughts arise, you're watching the worrisome thoughts. You're not engaged in them. But it's okay if you kind of slip back, right? And you pick up the worrisome thought again and you're grabbing onto it again. It's okay. It's part of the journey. It's part of the process. It's part of the plan. It's part of the exploration we came here to have. Don't make a big story around it. Just go, look, I grabbed onto that worry again. That's what I do. I go, look, I really grasped onto that again, didn't I? I thought I let go. It came back and I grabbed onto it again. I play with it and I have fun with it. Sometimes I forget what I'm doing when I'm watching my thoughts from outside of me, and I get attached to all the crazy thoughts again. Yeah, that might happen sometimes, But again, the watching it's not an activity. It's more of a slipping back into the eternal state that you are. So when I say observer of your thoughts and watching your thoughts, you kind of recline into your eternalness and into your eternal state. And it's not an activity of watching per se, if that makes any sense. It's you slip into the knowing that you're eternal and this human form and this humanness is just kind of playing out. And you're in your eternal state watching it. It's like you tune out of your humanness and you tune into your spirit and your eternal state. And that's what observer mode looks like or feels like. I don't know that there are perfect words to describe it, but that's what it feels like to me. It's that I let go of my humanness and I move into the spirit that I am, and I'm observing everything that's happening and playing out. I'm not even engaged in the thoughts. It's like the thoughts are occurring and I'm not even engaged in it. So if you're experiencing observing as a human activity, you may be a step in the right direction, and you can also experience it from the awareness of your eternal state. And so the awareness is not an activity, it's just a beingness, if that makes any sense. It's like you move away from your humanness and you're into your eternal state, observing. It's almost it's challenging to find human words. It's almost like I leave my body and I float above my body and I'm watching me do life in my body. And I'm not really, I'm not having an out-of-body experience. I don't want to make it sound like it's not like that, but that's what it feels like to me. It's like I left the busyness of my mind and I'm standing outside of myself, watching myself. And in that mode of observing, you don't slip back into the activity of the mind as much. But when you're viewing being the observer of yourself as an activity, a human activity, I can see how you could slip back into that a lot. So I don't know if that is as clear as I intended it to be. Let me tune into my divine team here and see if they have clarity on what I'm trying to say. So they're sharing that it's moving into your divinity. It's moving out of the predominant identification with your humanness and moving into your divinity. Those are the words that they offered. I don't know if that makes more sense. Okay, so let's move on with her question here. I understand and have experienced how we define something is what we make any event positive or negative. True. However you define it, whatever meaning you give to it is how you're going to experience it. It also plays a role in what you create next as well. And so she's sharing, I do understand that you are the one who makes a problem or a challenge or an opportunity out of an event. Yes. I have this life event and I find it a little bit challenging and hope you can give an awakened perspective on this, as I couldn't find a positive angle to look at this. I wanted to address that. you don't necessarily have to have a positive angle to put on it. Like, I can watch myself, I can become the observer, because I am this eternal being observing me in this human state, right? So I can become the observer. I am not necessarily looking to put a positive spin on it. I'm just watching. Like, when you're watching me in this video, you're not sitting there going, how do I put a positive spin on what Allison is saying? No, you're just there. You're like, I'm just watching. You know, I'm just watching what she's saying, right? So I don't necessarily look to put a positive spin on things, necessarily. I see my entire life as an exploration. So as experiences arise, I instantaneously view it as an exploration. I instantaneously view it as an event that emerged for me to explore, right? And because by default, I see all experiences as life events emerging. By default, I see all experiences as being present for my evolution, my growth and expansion. I don't have to, as things come up, try to put a positive spin on it. I just see it as an exploration. I just see them as, you know, life is just a series of events emerging. I choose to give it whatever meaning I give it, but I don't necessarily make an effort to give it a meaning, because by default, I trust that it's here for my expansion, growth, and exploration, which is what I incarnated here to experience. So because I have those default settings, because I've retrained my response to life to have those default settings, default perspectives on things, I don't make an effort to turn the thing into a positive thing. It's there for my exploration. It's there for it's by default, it's there for my expansion and growth. So I don't necessarily sit around going, how do I put a positive spin on it? So I wanted to clarify that as well. Nor do you need to put a positive spin on anything, because it's just there for your exploration. It has no meaning anyway, so you don't have to give it a meaning. You know, there's no requirement that you give it a meaning. I just wanted you all to know that when you do give it a meaning, you're the only one that's giving it the meaning, right? Okay, so her question is, when someone you care about suffers from something you've done, which you've done for their own good, which they don't know, when they think you can make it better, but you can't, how can you use this to not attach to the worrying thoughts about the person and make the experience at least less painful to that person and to you? Now, I don't know the specifics of the situation. Oh, okay. I thought I was missing part of your comment here. She was just sharing, thank you so much for sharing all of these videos. I've been following you for more than a year now, and the awareness I gained over that time is tremendous, though I feel like there's much more to figure out. No, there isn't anything to figure out. Let go of that. There's nothing to figure out. There's just much more to explore, to play. It's like a sandbox. There's more to explore. There's more to play with. There's nothing to figure out. Okay, there's just more expansion to step into. When you put the label figuring it out on it, it just feels more like work, and you don't really have to work. Okay, so to the question. The way in which you phrased this question, I would say that I experienced that with my children more than anything, because you're making decisions on their behalf sometimes, and sometimes they don't like the decision, you know, and they're suffering from the decision that you have made, and they hate you for making that decision, or they dislike you, or whatever they're experiencing, right? There are a couple things that come to mind on that, and I'll check in with my divine team too. What my divine team is reminding me here is that we're each here having our own life experience, including others in our experience, right? Our spouse, our children, they're all here having their own exploration with life. We feel like we have to fix their lives, and we don't, you know. It doesn't mean that we don't care, and if they suffer, we just go, hey, you here having your own exploration, what the hell do I care? It's not like that. It's more an awareness that this child, this spouse, this family member agreed to come be a part of your experience. And sometimes when they're in their suffering over something that you did, or some decision that you made, they're here to explore the suffering of that thing, you know. Again, not from an uncaring perspective, but if you truly feel like you made the best decision from where you were at the time, because sometimes we make decisions that we then feel, I could have made a better decision, but you feel like you made the best decision from where you were at the time, there's no reason for you to suffer, right? When you're in the place of worrying, you're suffering. When they're in the place of hating the decision or whatever contrast they're in, they're also choosing to suffer. But we're not here to make sure everybody outside ourselves is having a perfect experience with us, okay? And I don't say that from the perspective of us being uncaring, but we do the best we can from where we are at. We act in the most loving way that we can from the experience that we're having. Sometimes the decisions we make aren't the most loving. Sometimes the things we say aren't the most loving. You know, do the best you can in, you know, if you feel like you want to go back and have a different conversation with the person on that topic, cool, go ahead and do that. But you don't have to be in the place where you feel like you have to fix how the other person is feeling about that, you know, especially when you feel like I did the best I could with this, you know. If you feel like there's more conversation to have or more things to explore there, certainly go forward and explore it. I would say first though, and my team is saying they're agreeing with what I'm about to say, move into your place of aligning with your sense of well-being and aligning with the truth of who you are before you make any decisions on what next to do with the situation. Sometimes we can move into guilt and despair and remorse and regret and all of those experiences. It's fine, we all came here to explore all of that, but when you're there, you can't act from a place of love, right? And a place of expanded awareness. You have to release all of those things in order to act in the purity of love and the purity of expansion and the purity of awareness, you know? What do you do when you're watching someone, quote unquote, suffer as a result of what you have done or a decision that you've made and you felt like you made the best decision on their behalf? There's no one right answer. There's no one right answer for that. Sometimes you just keep loving them where you are and you show them that love from where you are. Sometimes conversation needs to be had to explore that a little bit more with the person. What I'm receiving here is sometimes you are exploring that for you to navigate the experience of how to stay in your place of well-being while someone you love is having a not so good experience, because you can. And sometimes the exploration that we're having at the time is how can I move into a much more expanded state of awareness such that someone in my experience is having a not so good time and I don't feel a dip in my vibration because of it. Sometimes what my team is sharing with me here is that you're exploring your desire to move past the experience of always dipping when someone in your experience dips in their vibration. Sometimes that's what you're exploring, and your soul's intention is to have this experience arise with this person in your experience, so that you can become more aware of who you truly are and have the opportunity to explore what it feels like to retain your higher frequency and your higher vibration, even though this is playing out in your experience. Likewise, they're sharing, the other person in your experience is also exploring a similar path where they are with you making a decision they don't like, and how can they explore the opportunity to retain their higher frequency and their state of well-being despite the decision that you have made. And sometimes that's what their soul is intending to explore as well, even though from a human perspective they're sharing, it doesn't feel like any of that is happening, it just feels like crap, you know. But sometimes, and they're wanting me to share that remember that your souls had intentions when you incarnated here, and sometimes what you're experiencing is those intentions, and in your humanness you're experiencing it from a human viewpoint, not from a soul's perspective of what that person's soul intended to explore in the experience with you and what your soul intended to explore in your experience with that person. Thank you, Divine Team. So sometimes that is at play in your experience, and you're so into the human state of affairs that you don't see the higher perspective of what your soul intended for that skit, for that role, for that role that you're both playing together. So sometimes we have to step outside of the humanness of it all and become more aware of maybe this is here for both of our souls' growth. You know, maybe there's an exploration that's happening here that we're both intending to explore. So we're all exploring similar things and similar themes, you know what I mean? So I just want to encourage you to, you know, from what I've shared here today, take away whatever is of benefit to you, and if you have follow-up questions on it, I'm here. But that's what me and my Divine Team who chimed in had to share on this topic, and hopefully it was helpful. And again, if you have questions, share those. If others of you who are here have experiences and you are also exploring not allowing your vibe to dip when someone is, in your experience, is in a lower vibration, how are you exploring that? How are you navigating those experiences? Or anything else that you want to have conversation about that I've shared in this video. That is it for this one, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.
Thanks everyone for joining me for another video. I just wanted to remind you to take what resonates and discard what does not, because your inner being, soul, and higher self knows what is relevant for you at this point in your human journey. If you'd like to connect with me personally about whatever is going on for you, you can go to AllisonPhillips.tv/connect. If you're looking for more videos and audios, there are some more at AllisonPhillips.tv/downloads. And I'll see you guys in the next video.